Hi, Mara. Hi, Danny.
Hey, Debbie.
Hi, Chuck.
Hey, Deb, how are you this evening?
Well, I almost backed out because I am in such pain. I need a hip replacement and a knee replacement. So who knows when either one of those are going to happen.
Oh, man, that's a double
So I
whammy.
can't, there's a whole lot of sitting I can't do comfortably. I'm not sleeping well, but
Mm.
And did we have to go door to door asking for Board of Adjustment variances for this month?
Feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Danny tried his best.
Well, I know you guys do. Talking people out of the trees, but Hi, Maren, how are you?
Oh, she was there.
Oh,
She was there. And
that was
then-
me, actually.
I'll move her over.
Okay. I was looking at it wrong and I moved her the wrong direction.
There she is.
Yeah, it probably doesn't help if we both have control.
Well, I know Andrew said he didn't get the link, so I sent him the link. So I was looking out for that and
Got it.
wrong direction.
Okay. So who should I ask to be vice chair? Maren, do you want to be vice chair?
What do I have to do for that? You think
Well, you have to read the longest paragraph in the world that Danny will put up on the screen, and then you have to take roll and read the docket into the record. But I think you have the most seniority of anybody.
But I'm an alternate.
Well, yeah, and we
I
can
mean,
ask.
I can. Sure. I'm
We can
sorry.
ask
I lost my
BJ or
pen.
Randy, but
I can do it.
okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to go grab a pen and I'm going to write down what you just said. I'll be right back.
Okay, sure.
So Debbie and Chuck, Danny and I are going to tag team
Okay.
just because it just wasn't fair for him to have to present 7.
Very thoughtful, Mara.
So I'm going to do 1. He's going to do 2. I'm going to do 1. He's going to do 2. I'm going to do 1.
Stop at 25, right?
Yeah.
After I ask who's, state your name for the record, we'll know which way we're going at that point.
Exactly.
Hey, Debbie, I'm reading the.
So Maren, when we get to a key slide to the first one, so for example, I'm going to go ahead and do this really quick. So when we get to this one, that's usually when you go ahead and read the title of the docket number.
Just like docket number 2343.
And then you get to read what's on the slide.
Oh, just read that whole thing.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then usually we do also do the powers, and there are going to be different powers for the first one than there are for future ones.
Okay.
And we will again have that up on the slide for you.
But I'm just reading.
Yeah, Debbie can, yeah.
You gotta read
Yeah,
it.
I'll prompt you. I'll tell you when
It's even better. Prompting for reading, I can handle that.
as long as
So great.
I don't screw up,
For all the visitors that are on right now, we are waiting for final member, one final member.
Yep.
And just as a reminder to all of you, this is the order that the hearings are going to be held this evening. As you can see, we do have 7. And typically, most of these take at least 30 minutes by the time both cases are presented and the discussion occurs. So if you are one of those towards the end, just add up a little bit of time in there and maybe log on before that happens. But we will leave this up briefly while we're waiting for our last board member to join.
Hi, Andrew. Haven't seen you in a while. And hi, Randy.
Good to see you too, Debbie.
Danny, who's our last member we're waiting for?
BJ.
BJ. Okay.
I know he came today, so.
He
Oh,
came
we
to pick up the
remembered.
packet today.
Yeah.
So we know he remembered because he picked up the packet.
Mhm.
Hey, no. No, no. Oh, great. I'm having technical difficulties.
Oh,
What's wrong, Debbie?
Well, I got a thing that says,
she freeze?
She froze.
Uh-oh.
I bet it said unstable internet connection.
Well, I know BJ's cell phone number is in the roster. If we want
That's
to
what I was just gonna say.
check with him soon.
Okay, so Debbie just went off.
BJ's here.
okay.
Oh,
I think he started to answer my phone call and then he was getting on.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm trying to get on my computer, but I'm on my phone. So give me just a second and I think I'll have it.
No worries. Just a quick, for those attendees that are waiting, just a quick reminder, we're getting all of our members together so we can start the meeting. Up on the screen, you should see the order of the dockets of the hearings for tonight. Most items usually take approximately 30 minutes. So if you're one of the ones at the very end of the agenda for this evening and you want to get off and come back on again, feel free to do that. And we will continue as we move forward through this as quickly and expeditiously as possible.
Are we ready to go? Or do you want us to wait, BJ?
No, you can go ahead and go, and if I can get into my laptop, it's not running at top speed at the moment, but I could do it off my phone.
So Mara, should I go ahead and start?
I'd say go ahead and start.
I'd like to call to order the May 13th, 2021 regular meeting of the City of Webster Groves Board of Adjustment. Maren, could you take the roll call?
Yes, I sure can. Debbie Sahlberg,
Here.
BJ Papula, I'm pretty sure I butchered
Here.
your last name. Randy Sprague,
Here.
Andrew Podhast,
Here.
and Maren Mellon here.
Thank you. This evening we'll follow this procedure. The city staff will present testimony regarding the facts of the request. The applicant will have the opportunity to present their request to the board and address questions, followed by those in favor of the application. And then we'll ask any persons in attendance who are opposed to make any comments. The board will close the public session and open for board discussion and decision. The proceedings will be recorded. Please speak clearly and one at a time. We will vote on your application tonight for a decision. Approval will take 4 out of the 5 board members' approval. And please try not to be redundant or repetitive in your comments. Maren, would you please read the powers relative to the requested variance, appeal, or exception?
Yes, this is section 54-163. Permit variations where practical difficulties, unnecessary hardships, or results. Ooh, is that right?
It's a different one.
It's a different than usual because it's signs.
Or results inconsistent with the general purpose of this ordinance result from the strict application of this article. If it is determined that the applicant for a variance is subject to such difficulty, hardship, or result, then the board must also determine when the proposed sign, 1, will not be inappropriate to the type of activity to which it pertains, to the scale of the building to which it is related, or to the aesthetic environment of the surrounding structures and the land use, and will not materially diminish or impair established property values within the surrounding areas, and will not in any other respect impair the public health, safety, comfort, morals, and welfare of the city of Webster Groves.
Thank you. Would you please read the first docket on tonight's agenda?
Yes, docket 2343, a petition submitted by Talk Properties LLC on behalf of Karis Childress Family LP for an application for variance from sections 54060C and 54075B2 of the sign code of the city of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 1 sign in excess of the maximum 2 permanent signs that are allowed per street facing wall in order to install 3 wall signs on a commercial building that will face Big Bend Boulevard. The applicant is requesting a second variance of 77 square feet in excess of the maximum 6 square foot sign area that may be allowed on the side or rear wall of a commercial building with an entrance facing a parking lot in order to install an 83 square foot wall sign on the south elevation of a commercial building facing a parking lot. The property is located at 7816 Big Bend Boulevard and was within the C commercial district.
Thank you. Does the city have a case?
Yes, ma'am. Before the board, there's a total of exhibits that have been provided to the board. There are 10 in number, and we would move the introduction into evidence those 10 exhibits. In furtherance of those exhibits, we would present the testimony of Mara. Are you handling this one, please?
Yes.
Okay, would you state your name for the record, please?
I'm sorry, can I stop you guys right there? Is there any way that I can get a meeting number and ID?
Oh.
Because I'm into Zoom on my computer, but it won't pull up. Maybe because I'm in on this.
Hold on just a second. I apologize. I'm gonna have to stop share in order to get to it. Just a second.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't think my phone's gonna last.
That's okay. Webinar ID is 827
827
48
8 82748.
4835.
Is that 4835 or another 4835?
So 827
Uh-huh.
4835 0807.
0807. So that's the ID and then the password.
419
419
026
26
7538.
538. All right, if you'll give me just a second, I don't necessarily have to hear all of it because I've definitely read it, particularly on this first one. So I can log out and log back in if you guys want to keep going. That's not a problem for me, unless it is for anybody.
I think we should have Ms. Papillo hear all the evidence as it's presented. We're happy to wait for a minute.
We can wait.
Okay, give me just a second. I apologize.
Can I swear Mara in now?
Yes, please.
Mara, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
We'll wait just a moment till he logs back in.
Darn technology, right?
Mhm. Do you think we should schedule a break at some point or just
See how you're all
see
doing.
it when it comes?
If anybody needs a break, they can just, at the end of a petition, they can certainly just ask for one.
Oh, he does not look like he's hooked on the computer.
Yeah, no, my computer decided to update and restart. I don't know if that's what its problem is or what's going on. So I'll do the phone till it gets close to dying and then I'll let you guys know.
Okay, got it.
Sorry.
That's okay. So I've been sworn in.
Okay. Madam Chairman, please, the board, would you please state your name for the record, please?
Mara Perry.
And are you employed by the city of Webster Groves?
Yes.
In what capacity?
Director of Planning and Development.
What are your duties in that position?
To administer and execute zoning regulations.
We're going to go through some slides here that are presented. You're familiar with this aerial view of the property at 7816 Big Bend Boulevard, is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's within the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
That is correct.
What is the zoning district for that property?
It's Zone C Commercial District.
What is the applicant's request, please?
So the applicant is requesting 2 variances. Those 2 variances, which are up on the slides now. The first request is a variance from section 54.060C, which is the general size, number, and height regulations for commercial and industrial properties for signs. The applicant is requesting a variance of 1 sign in excess of the maximum 2 permanent signs that are allowed per street face wall in order to install 3 wall signs on the building to face Big Bend. The second variance is to Code Section 54.075B2, which relates to sign area. The applicant is requesting a second variance of 77 square feet in excess of the maximum 6 square feet sign area that is allowed on the side or rear wall of a commercial building and the entrance facing a parking lot. And they're doing this in order to install an 83 square foot wall sign on the south elevation of a new commercial building facing a parking lot.
Okay, and this slide also shows the applicable sections of the code, of the Webster Groves Code.
That is correct.
Can you describe for the board, please, the existing conditions of this property?
Sure, and I'm going to go back through, here are the two code sections again, highlighting very specifically the no more than 2 permanent signs per street facing wall. And then in this code section, this is the code section that allows for the additional sign area for a sign that is not on the primary street frontage, but on a secondary entrance to the side or rear. So I'll describe the existing conditions. This is actually a proposed new structure. So there is a proposed site plan because the structure has not been built at this time. It is a pie-shaped piece of property that has a frontage on Big Bend Boulevard and a frontage on North Laclede Station. Those two are considered front yards or front-facing streets. And then due to the configuration, there is a side yard rather than a rear yard. And that side yard is the one that faces the neighboring commercial buildings.
Okay, and yeah, I think you've just done it again, but just for the board's review, there's actually 2 different variances requested by Talk in this application. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we have both of the variances requested on the side of the slide. The first variance regarding the additional sign, and then the second variance regarding the additional square footage for another sign.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, Madam Chairman, the city would just move the introduction of evidence, all the exhibits that have been testified to by the Webster Groves, and have nothing further to present at this time.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay.
We gave you the generic one because you have to use the script over and over and over again 7 times.
Okay.
So I do need to go through all the description of the 2 variances that they're requesting.
Please do.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to describe for you this evening what the proposal is, what the proposed signs are, what we were able to approve in the code, and then I'll go through what they're requesting for the 2 variances. So circled in yellow are all the proposed sign locations on this particular piece of property and on the building itself. As you go through the analysis of what they are allowed to have, on the wall elevation that faces, in this case, both the north is the north and west elevations, because there are only 2 frontages and because of the orientation of how the building faces, we consider the frontage of both the area of the wall that faces directly onto Big Bend, as well as the area of the wall that faces towards the intersection as one facade. In looking at that as one facade, they are asking for a sign that faces the area that goes towards the corner of the primary part of the intersection. They are also asking for 2 additional signs on the actual facade that is immediately parallel to Big Bend. In addition, on facade B, which is the facade that faces North Laclede Station Road, they are asking for 2 signs. That is what is allowed per the code, 2 signs along facade B, which is the eastern elevation of the building. In addition, on facade C, which is the south elevation, this is the elevation of the building that faces internally to the parking lot on the property and faces towards what we would consider the side of the property. As you look at this configuration, this is a view from essentially a Google Street view from the center of the intersection facing towards where these 2 facades would be located. So you would be able to see both approximately where the Subaru sign was. There will be a sign up at the primary front of the building, and then you will be able to see the entire length of the facade as there are 2 additional signs. You are only allowed per the code up to 2 wall signs per each street facing elevation. And they are asking for 3, the total of asking for the 1 that is facing in towards the intersection and the 2 that are parallel to Big Bend. So that is the first variance that is being requested. The second variance that is being requested is a code section that identifies that if you already have a series of front-facing elevations on your commercial building facing streets, that you are still allowed to have an additional sign for a part of the commercial building that faces to an entrance facing to a parking lot, to either the side or rear wall of the structure. So this wall, which is wall C, faces into the parking lot internally. And in this code section, it allows you to only have 6 square feet, with the assumption that you've already driven into this area because you've seen the multiple signs getting you into the direction of the structure, and that you can have 6 square feet to identify that there is an entrance off of that internal facade. I will also point out there are, and they were identified in the very first slide, identifying where all the signs were proposed. They are also allowed to have a monument sign facing each of those street frontages. So there's also a monument sign at the entrance to the parking lot facing Big Bend. And there's also a monument sign in the entrance to the parking lot facing Laclede Station Road. So the request here is a square footage of 83 square feet, and the code allows them to have 6 square feet. This again is looking along the facade. This street view is along Big Bend, but from the back side, you would have a back facing elevation that's a little bit closer in, not as far as this red area here. Both this structure and this brick structure have both been torn down. And there will be a parallel elevation here that has 2 signs on it, and there will be a monument sign facing the street here. Now we do not have any additional information to share with the board, but if there are questions regarding the request for those 2 separate variances, I would remind the board that you need to do kind of multiple things. Each of the variances will be voted on separately. Each of the variances, according to the powers that the board has, first have to determine, is it a practical difficulty or an unnecessary hardship or result that's inconsistent with the general purpose of the ordinance for them not to have either the 3rd sign facing the one frontage, or again, when we get to the second variance, the 77 additional square feet above the 6 square feet. Once you make that determination, you also then have to determine if that hardship or difficulty, whether the proposed sign will do any of the other 3 items listed on the screen. So I am available to answer any questions.
All right, I turned my video off because I'm trying to save battery power. But so what we're talking about is essentially they're talking about 3 signs on the building and 2 monumental signs.
So actually, no, they are going to have, so the proposal is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 signs on the building and 2 monument signs. They are asking for, they are technically only allowed 5 signs on the building. One of those is one of the variances that they're asking for. And of the 5 signs they're allowed on the building, one of them is limited to only 6 square feet, and they would like 83 square feet. Does that help with the clarification?
Yes, that does.
Okay.
And then with the monument signs, they're supposed to be 6 feet, and you're saying they're wanting 83 feet? Did I catch that? No,
They're
no,
not
that-
requesting monument sign. They are requesting the sign that is on the building that is facing into the parking lot to be
Right.
83 square feet. Their monument signs are not in question. Both of their monument signs meet all the requirements of the code, and we have
Okay.
approved their monument signs.
Okay.
We've also approved essentially 2 signs each on either facade facing towards each of the streets. So what's in question is the 5th, essentially 5th wall sign that they want facing a street, and then the size of the sign that is allowed facing the parking lot.
So those are the 2 different variances?
Those are the 2 different variances.
Okay. And what's the hardship again?
That would be the question for the applicant.
Right.
I can answer additional questions in regards to what it meets in the code or what it doesn't meet in the code and our analysis of why we did not allow either of those.
I would like the analysis, but if you want to wait till they do it, I can ask you that question afterwards.
Well, what's the question? So I did go through the various analysis of what we did determine. That's why they're getting variances.
So
Okay.
Mara, I guess my question would be that sign on the small wall, right? Like, so basically you're considering it being 3 signs facing each of those streets because it's sort of an oblique. So, you know, it can be viewed from the street as well as the ones that actually face the street.
So technically there's only 2 streets. So there's not a third street to come into play, even though this is an unusual intersection. So in order to determine the analysis of which direction these various facades faced, because the building has 4 faces, but the intersection and the lot only has 3. And so using those 3, we could have either put and
Yeah, it
said
does.
that direction faces and that they're asking for 3 signs facing Big Bend, or we could have analyzed it and said it was 3 signs facing Laclede Station. Either way, you're still looking at either 3 signs facing one street or 3 signs facing the other street. There is no third intersection street to come into play because only the 2 streets intersect with one another. So that was our analysis, was that there isn't another street face because there isn't another part to this roadway. So we analyzed that 3 would be facing one street and 2 would be facing the other.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Are there any more questions from the board for Mara at this time?
No,
If
not for
not,
me.
if not, who is here in favor of docket 2343?
Oh, perfect. Joe Godfrey, I'm representing Total Access Urgent Care. Thank you.
Before we get started, Mr. Godfrey, we need to swear you in. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you hereby affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Sorry, I accidentally unmuted him. He's
No
back
problem.
again.
No problem. My hand was up and I do.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead and present your case.
All right. First off, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And I want to take a moment, I won't take much, but I think this might be the first meeting I've ever been to in which you guys pronounced talk the way that we do actually in the company. I've been to probably 50 or 60 of these meetings now, and it's like a milestone for me. So that's something I want to celebrate internally for a sec. So in any case, thanks for hearing us tonight. We do have the two variances, and if you're okay with it, Mara, I know, thank you for all the insight on this. I'd like to start with maybe the side of the building that has 3 signs technically on the facade. Perfect. All right, thank you for doing that.
There, sorry, there you go.
All right, your drawing is much better than mine was when we talked. So on side A there, you know, Mara and I had a conversation offline prior to this in which she explained the position of the sign code and how she was interpreting it for us. And you know, in this situation, I would love to see that third, you know, the sliver at the edge of the property at the corner nearest to the intersection, seen as a hardship because we don't have much of an opportunity to add a sign there, given the way that the sign code is written. But you know, it's my opinion, having driven that intersection many times now, watching our progress and seeing the property, that there's a lot of traffic along Big Bend and along Laclede that would be coming from that direction, and that direct sign is, I think, the only thing that they would be able to see from the intersection, I believe on the north side, if I'm not mistaken. And so seeing that there, you know, I think the geometric angle of the property provides a level of hardship in that the acute angle doesn't give much of a viewing window for people who are actually proceeding from the north and heading south past the building. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'd love to hear some opinions and kind of see what people are feeling and maybe address anything from there.
Be perfectly honest, I am not inclined towards it. I think there's plenty of viewing from either angle off of, I mean, even if you're coming through that intersection, if you're talking, you're gonna have that whole side, that's gonna be a big billboard, and the other one's gonna be a big billboard on Laclede Station. But coming from Laclede Station south, you're gonna see everything on that. And coming from it north, you're still gonna see the monument sign, or from south to north, I should say. At what point does this become bumper stickerish?
Yeah, that's always actually a concern of ours as well. We don't want to be bumper sticker. But you know, I'm actually looking at Mara's picture from what looks like Google Earth or Google Maps right now, and where that Subaru sign is, you know, in that intersection, that would be the only sign visible if there were heavy traffic in that area. You know, to where you could actually see the building from the narrow point of the property. So that specifically, you know, I'm happy to jump into the other variance requests if you'd like, but I think this one ends up kind of being my priority out of the two, given the level of traffic that goes through that intersection. So, you know, there's potential, I think, in traffic periods where you wouldn't be able to see those monument signs. But, oh, sorry. BJ, did you have something? I thought I heard something.
No, that wasn't me, but I mean, go ahead. I mean, I don't want to cut you off, but I'll be happy to give you my opinion.
Just as a reminder, this is the point where you're taking testimony and not talking about your opinions yet regarding the variance. So if Joe, we could.
Understood. I'll
this
cover
is
that
more
one.
of just you're giving them testimony that they can use in their determination. So
Okay.
I just wanted to get us back on track.
No, sorry for taking us off. All right. So in any case, yes, I'd like to see that sign, and as kind of our priority for the evening out of the two, I think, you know, present on that corner, because it would be the only representation that our company has on that corner. And, you know, the geometric nature of that corner provides a great opportunity for us to be there as a business and you know, really integral to the neighborhood. But my goal is to get signage that allows people to make that turn immediately after there, knowing that they're going to the right building, rather than seeing a monument sign maybe as they're passing it and potentially missing one of those intersections. One of the key things that has stood out to me in the past several years is when somebody told me that their asthmatic kid was in the back of their car with their mom, and they had to take a U-turn around because they missed the building the first time, and it was because the signage wasn't quite prominent enough for them to make the turn with the traffic that was kind of at hand at the moment. So that's a situation where, you know, those moments matter, those seconds matter, and you don't want to have to turn around. So as for the back of the building, the same kind of premise applies, but given the nature of this building, thank you, Mara, you're reading my mind. You know, as you're passing, which is going south to north on either angle, and, you know, passing the building from the C side first, as she's written up there, you have the opportunity to see those two monument signs. But again, my concern is with the grading on the property. You know, those of you who are familiar with this area, and I'm imagining all of you are similarly familiar, if not more familiar than me, the monument signs are at or actually below the level of the street. And so I think there's potential that in those high traffic times, with this intersection having as much traffic as it does, I think there's potential for those signs to be obstructed by other cars. And with the building standing higher, you know, I think that wall with the proposed sign there being, you know, I think that wall is about 22 feet high. It would provide, you know, a non-obstructive view, you know, so it wouldn't actually make it worse for people who are driving there as far as sign clutter.
Well, can we back up to that first picture of the actual intersection? Because it seems to me, yeah, that one.
This one.
Because it seems to me, even if you do have a sign, it's somewhat obstructed by all of those wires and the poles and whatnot going in. I'm not quite sure. I mean, are they planning on moving any of that, or what's? I mean, that all stays put.
I believe, and Mara, you may actually know more about this than I do, being in the city's perspective. I think that the county roadways is actually making an improvement on that corner. They may be removing one of those poles. I know talk is not talk is not from our project scope, but I believe there is some
Right,
change
that would
occurring.
totally be a
Yeah.
governmental issue.
Right. Yeah, I know. From speaking from experience, when I proposed them to remove as many wires as there are there, it typically ends up being $500,000, which is something it's jaw dropping for everyone. But
Sure.
in any case, I'm hopeful, and I believe the case is that they're removing at least one of those, which does open up a little bit of a signage window there, and would improve our visibility somewhat.
So Joe, I have a question for you, related to this sign on, the triangular facing, fascia of the building.
At the peak there?
Right. So,
Okay.
I mean, if that sign was there, isn't it's viewable from both angles of those approach,
Correct.
both from Laclede Station and Big Bend. It seems like the other talk logo on the Big Bend or the Laclede Station side would seem to be sort of redundant, right? They can already see that other other sign.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Have you considered that?
So yeah, we did actually, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we had a good discussion about it, I believe, during the ARB meeting. Sorry, I'm becoming familiar with multiple board members here, but during that, I think one of the stipulations for us being on that corner ended up being the 3-sided tower element, just to keep it symmetrical and even. And what we found when we were considering it is that having that tower element and having nothing on there was almost worse than having signs that were redundant on that. Just because it ended up being a fair amount of white face without any kind of texturing or representation there. So I'm open to having the conversation. I would prefer as much as possible to maybe slightly diminish them rather than remove them completely. But it's certainly something that I'm happy to discuss.
I mean, you understand what I'm saying. I mean, like you're putting like signs all over the building and then on the front, and it seems like you can see it from all angles. I don't know you necessarily need it there, and I don't know that it necessarily improves anything or any health and safety measure that from the way I'm looking at it from your renderings, and that it seems a little overkill.
Yeah. No.
And I'm just being out there. I
appreciate the candidness. Yeah. Candor, rather. I'll speak correctly tonight. One of the things that we're trying to do as an organization, and I'm hoping that we're getting closer to it, is we're trying to improve our brand recognition with talk. Because as you guys can imagine, putting 20 letters on the building is far harder than putting 4. But we didn't start off that way. We didn't have the marketing genius that Quick Trip did when they initially started. And so we're still at the point where I think we kind of need to have both represented there for people to understand, who we are, and more importantly,
I understand that from a branding perspective, but so
Right.
if I'm looking at this correctly, and maybe I'm not, the renderings, it's like you've got talc on like the 3 sides of a tower, right?
correct.
Right.
As
That
proposed,
seems
yeah.
a little overkill. I mean, like I get you got to put your brand out there, and you definitely need to get your signs so people know where you're at. I just, at what point is that overkill?
Sure. And actually, your point is well taken. I just want to make sure that I'm following the appropriate cadence here. Mara, are you comfortable with where we stand right now? Sorry.
We really need to get back to simply you're making testimony, they're
Right.
asking questions, and
Yeah, just for clarification, it's my understanding there will be time for board members to discuss amongst themselves after the testimony closes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Once we go into executive session. So
Okay.
let's talk about the wall sign on side C, please.
Sure. Sounds great. Thank you. All right. So yeah, in any case, our goal in making this one and in requesting this is to provide a more vertical option for when those monument signs are blocked by traffic or blocked by, by another car that might be sitting and waiting for the light. And so having that, as well as having branding over the front door to the building, which is, closest to the parking lot where our patients are going to be, is effectively that. And I'm concerned with the monument sign positioning. And we couldn't find a better spot because closer to the intersection was again, continuing to further obstruct traffic and potentially line of sight. But with the grading of the site, I have some residual concern that those monument signs may not always be visible for people who are passing by and looking for that turn in. So the signs on the building offered a more elevated opportunity for them to see that without without driving by and missing a sign. So I think that's all I have for there. So we can do whatever whatever is next on the cadence here.
Joe,
Thank you.
I have a question for you. So do you guys have data on basically the radius of the people that use your facility? I mean, I know the name of your facility, and there are several of them located within pretty decent proximity of this location. So I'm just trying to figure out, how far are people coming to access your location? What are these, generally local people, or are they traveling
Sure.
from that they may not be familiar with the
Right.
local?
And actually, it's a good question because my answer has evolved since since the last couple of years allowed us to expand farther into St. Louis. When it first started, people would drive for they drive for 5 to 10 miles, on the highway to get to us because we were further spread out. But as we've localized and as we've been able to find welcome in these communities, it's actually more effective for us to have one in every neighborhood, even if they tend to be, 3 miles apart. Maybe, at this point, they're almost a maximum of 5. But they do tend to have their own discrete population that hits them. For example, Kirkwood and our Rock Hill location right now are about 2.5 miles, 3 miles apart, but they see a very different population. And I think some of it is just, you don't want to drive 10 minutes out of the way to get to your pharmacy. And that same kind of math and consideration applies to this. It's nice to have it in the area. So we've noticed that when you get within 3 miles, we start to notice a little bit of cannibalism from other locations. For example, our Chippewa and Jameson location and our Hampton Avenue location are 2.6 miles apart. And they have about a 20% cannibalization rate, which is, where you open one and then the next one, the one nearby drops a little bit because of it. But I would say it's pretty safe to say that about 3 miles is a good radius and has been proving helpful for us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Godfrey? If not, the board will move into executive session.
Debbie, first to ask if there is anyone else who wanted
Any
to
I'm
speak
sorry.
against.
I'm sorry, Mara. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of docket number 2343?
Okay, I'm going to add someone to talk. Joe, I'm removing you from talking.
All right. Thank you.
Matt, you have the ability to speak now.
Thank you.
Matt, I need to swear you in. Do you raise your right hand, please? Do you hereby affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
My name is Matt Herlicka. I'm the owner of Excel Signs and partner with Total Access. And we've done about, I think, close to 30 locations with Joe and Total Access. I wanted to bring in mind on the tower part on the front. We were saying that, and I forgive me, I think it might have been BJ, or I forget, was saying it might have been a little overkill having the 42-inch letters that say talk. I did want to bring up the point that, and I think Mara brought it up earlier, it is kind of a unique location for us. And we really assist Total Access in their marketing efforts as well. And the first, like Joe mentioned, we're trying to get talk, that name, out there more. But really, more importantly, when we drive that intersection and we be heading down Big Bend towards Webster University, right before the intersection, you really come to a blind spot to where you have a hard time seeing either side of the building. Now, in all fairness, maybe a little further back, you may be able to identify it, but those the TAUC letters are 42 inches long, are tall, I'm sorry. And that gives the human eye with a non-lit letter, being able to see that for well over 1,000 feet. A lit letter, you're approaching 1,200 to 1,300 feet. You can identify that well. So as you're approaching that, you're seeing exactly what you're heading in with the intersection and the angle that the building is at. Really, that front TAUC is going to be one of the only things that are readable for quite some time. So I just wanted to bring up that point. And I think aesthetically, actually, it looks better. And that's just my opinion, than having a blank sign face. But it's not just to just get our name out there and get gaudy at all. It's not our intent at all. You look at all the total access buildings, we're not looking for more is better. That is not the philosophy. The signs work. There's a ton of data how they have worked. And I just want to bring up that point with that 42-inch tall letter, how important that is from a distance and with that intersection. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would, or online, who would like to speak in favor of docket number 2343?
Hands up.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to docket 2343?
No hands up.
Hearing none and seeing none, we will close the public session and open this for board discussion. Does anyone have any comments that they didn't make during the previous session?
Can you go back to the slide that showed like the overall picture with the yellow circles, all the yellow circles? Yes, that one. Thank you. Okay.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the first sign, the sign at the point first, because that one I believe was listed first. BJ, tell me what you really think.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, what I really think is there's no undue hardship here that I'm seeing any way, shape or form. But I think if you're just thinking about it aesthetically, with all those poles in the way, it's just going to look gaudy. And then you've got it I mean, it just seems bumper stickerish, like they're just putting it all over the building. And, you know, I mean, if you know you're going to urgent care, you know where it's at. It's not going to be that hard to figure it out. And I also think if you're coming north bound, or well, you're coming southbound from Brentwood, you're definitely going to see the side of that building. There's no way you're getting around that. And even if you do pass it, you're going to see the big signs on the side and the monument. So I don't see any of the concern there. You know, I think it, you know, I get them wanting to brand it and throw it out there, but I'm just not seeing like any undue hardship at all.
Well, and I would argue that I think there is a hardship. I think that a lot is particularly unusual. I think, frankly, coming from coming toward it from on Big Bend, you can't see anything. If you're looking for an urgent care, I'd like to know where it is. I don't find it gaudy, and I don't think it's bumper stickerish at all. I think it's very reasonable to figure if that was a square building, there'd be a sign there. That it really doesn't bother me. I think that one makes sense. I have some issues with the back, but I can understand their point very clearly on the front of the building.
So I'll give you maybe the corner, but still, I don't think it's going to be as visible as you think. But then when you put it like all the way around, like on the corners, and then throw like 6 other signs, I mean, it just seems like way overkill.
I guess it just doesn't to me, and that's where we're going to differ, and that's fine.
No, yeah, that's all right. I'm not mad about it or anything.
No, nor am I. I just see it a little differently than you do, and I really do. I get your point. I really take it, but I also can see the other viewpoint as well.
Mark, can you flip to the standard of review again, please? The practical hardship. Thank you. Practical.
I mean, me just being perfectly honest, I don't think there's any undue hardship on either one, but
Yeah.
you know,
Practical difficulties, unnecessary hardship, or results inconsistent with the general purpose of this ordinance.
Or the aesthetics or the intent of the building.
In the interest of time, since we have 6 more of these, does anybody else have any comments? Anyone have any comments on the sign on side C that they haven't mentioned?
well, and I'd like somebody or if anybody to at least address some of that undue hardship or at least some of it, just so we have it on record. You know, whatever the vote turns out to be is fine.
I mean, I think do we need to talk about them separately or can I combine them?
Well, we'll have to vote on them separately, but you can
Okay.
talk about them. You
Okay.
can talk about them together, Maren, that's fine.
I guess I'm sort of leaning towards, I don't see, I mean, I could see how it's not their preference or it's not ideal for marketing, branding purposes, but I don't see it being a practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship. It seems to me there are more than enough signs to adequately cue eyes into seeing the space. And we heard testimony that, their average patient is coming from within, a few miles. And so it's more than likely going to be a person that passes that intersection and is very familiar with where they are going. And it's unlikely to be someone who is just driving down the street, looking for an urgent care because they're within, what did you say, 3 miles? So that's, I don't see that they're helping their patients that much with it. I guess that's where I'm leaning.
Are there any other comments?
Just my comment on the signs, as far as the 3 signs on the 2 streets facing each other, I feel like with the angles of approach, with 2 signs facing, if they were positioned correctly, I think they would serve the purpose. Yes, it is an unusual location, but I don't think that because you create an extra side because of the angle, it shouldn't create an extra place to have signage. So that's my thought.
The chair will entertain a motion, since Mara has indicated we need to vote on these separately, indicate a motion for the 1 sign in excess of the 2 permanent signs facing Big Bend. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to entertain.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Nay? Nay?
Nay.
Nay.
Maren, would you please poll the commission?
Randy Sprague,
I'd say nay.
Andrew Podest,
Okay.
Debbie Sahlberg,
No?
BJ Papillo,
Nay.
and Maren Mallon votes nay.
So this first request has failed. I entertain a motion for the second request, which was a 83 square foot sign instead of a 6 foot sign on the south elevation of the commercial building.
I'll so move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no? No?
No.
Oh,
Maren, would you please poll the commission?
Randy Sprague,
No,
Andrew Podest,
no.
Debbie Sahlberg,
No?
BJ Papillo,
No.
Maren Mallon votes no.
Your application tonight has failed, you may see city staff during regular business hours about your next step or options. Maren, would you please read, I guess we need variances. This is not a sign request, right, Mara? So we have different variance requests. Maren, would you please read the powers relative to variations?
Yes, powers relative to variations, when by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property as of September 20th, 1956, or by reason of exceptional topographical conditions or other extraordinary or exceptional situation or condition of a specific piece of property, which condition is not generally prevalent in the neighborhood, the strict application of the area regulation zoning code would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties to, or exceptional and undue hardship upon the owner of such property. The board is hereby empowered to authorize upon an appeal relating to such property a variation from such strict application so as to relieve such difficulties or hardships.
Thank you. Would you please read docket 2344 into the record?
Hold on just a second. Danny, do we want to switch so you can have the PowerPoint?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to stop share and Danny's going to share. So then that way he can maneuver his PowerPoint for the next two. And then we'll put the item up for Maren to read.
Okay, is it? Okay, I've got the screen share now. Is it working?
Yep,
Okay.
we're seeing it. Thanks, Danny.
Okay. All right, Maren, if you want to read the docket number.
This is docket number 2344, a petition submitted by Donald and Deborah Fitzgerald for an application for variance from section 53196B of the zoning code of the city of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 2 feet in excess of the maximum 4-foot fence height allowed in a front yard in order to install a 6-foot tall fence of approximately 20 linear feet located in the north front yard of the subject property. The property is located at 901 South Gore Avenue within the A3 10,000 square foot residence district.
And Chuck, would you like to present the?
Yes, I'm
exhibits?
sorry. Does the city have a case?
Yes, Madam Chairman. At this time, the city would move the introduction to evidence of the exhibits which have previously been provided to the board. They are numbered 1 through 7, but several of the exhibits have several parts. Well, actually, this is saying 1 through 10. Okay, 1 through 10, and some of them have separate parts. With that being said, I would move the introduction to evidence of all the city's exhibits and would present the testimony from the city staff. And we will start with, would you please state your name for the record, Danny?
Do I need to be sworn in first?
Yes, Danny,
Yes,
would you please raise your right hand?
Sure.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Mr. Billings.
Thank you. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Danny Gendusa.
And you were employed by the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, I am,
And in what capacity you're employed?
as planner,
What are your duties in that position?
to administer and execute zoning regulations.
I'd like to direct your attention, sir, to the aerial view right there. Can you describe Exhibit 4 for the board, please?
Yes, this is an aerial view of 901 South Gore Avenue in the city of Webster Groves. It is located in the A3 10,000 square foot residence district.
And you're familiar with the property at 901 South Gore, is that correct?
Yes,
It's within the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
yes, it is.
And as you have indicated, that's in the A3 zoning district, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, would you proceed to the next slide, please?
Sure.
And what is the applicant's request, please?
The applicant is requesting a variance of 2 feet in excess of the maximum 4-foot fence height that's allowed in a front yard in order to install a 6-foot tall fence, approximately 20 linear feet located in the north front yard of the subject property.
And would you please explain for the board the actual code section of the Webster Groves Code?
Sure.
that's
It is from
affected?
section 53.196 in the regulations on fence height in subsection B, which states that on corner lots, no fence in the side street front yard shall exceed 4 feet in height.
Can you describe the existing conditions on the property?
Yes, so 901 South Gore Avenue is a corner lot. It is located at the corner of South Gore and West Glendale Road. The house and the detached garage were built in 1920. There was a fence, a 6-foot tall fence installed in the front yard, kind of highlighted in yellow on the slide. The date of its installation is unknown. We don't have a permit record for it, or I was not able to find a permit record for it. But there is, as of last fall, there was a 6-foot tall shadow box, wood shadow box style fence in the north front yard of the property. You can see it on the slide above. This is from a Google Street View image from, I believe it's from 2020. In fall of 2020, though, a drunk driver ran onto their property and smashed their fence. And the applicant is now seeking to replace that fence.
Okay. Do you have further exhibits to present, Mr. Januza?
Yes, so the applicant is now, they've been doing a number of other home renovations. And at this point, they're wanting to replace that fence that was hit by a drunk driver. They applied for a fence permit to install a 6-foot tall panel style fence, a different style fence than what they had before. Staff told them, unfortunately, we couldn't approve it because you are not allowed to have a 6-foot tall fence in your front yard. But we told them that there actually is a code exception that would allow limited fence repair if you're looking to do the same material at the same height and in the same location as the existing fence. It can be deemed a repair according to our code and can be done without a permit. So we told them, even though we couldn't approve their 6-foot tall fence that they wanted to do in a different style, we could technically approve them to replace with the same kind of 6-foot tall wood shadow box style that they had previously. So this lot is a little bit unique in that the detached garage actually sets the minimum front setback line on this property. You can see it kind of marked in the darker shade of yellow. Technically, the portion of the existing fence south of the north front yard setback could technically be replaced at 6 feet in height. So we gave them the option that they could run their new 6-foot tall horizontal panel fence just in line with the existing front line of the garage. That would kind of cut off some of their patio area that they have and wasn't ideal for what they were wanting to do. And this is the type of fence that they wanted to install, different from their shadow box style. It's a horizontal panel style. I don't want to confuse it too much, but if the Board of Adjustment were to approve the applicant to have a 6-foot tall fence of a different style, this style would still have to go to the Architectural Review Board for a separate approval. But this is the style that the applicant would like to put in. And as the slide shows, any new fence other than the 6-foot shadow box that they previously had, any new fence that would be located north of the front setback line would have a maximum height of 4 feet. And any fence that they would install in line with or behind the front setback line could be allowed at 6 feet height. That's kind of that's the sum of it. I know it's a little bit of a unique request, so I'd be glad to take questions.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board at this point? At this time, Madam Chairman, the city would introduce into evidence each of the exhibits that has been presented to the board through its packet and as testified to by the city. With that said, the city would have nothing further to present on this application.
Is there the applicant available to speak?
Donald Fitzgerald.
Is there anyone to speak on docket
Yes.
2344?
Yes, I'm here, Don Fitzgerald.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I
Mr.
didn't-
Fitzgerald, would you please raise your right hand? And so, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Well, again, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Danny did a good job of sort of summarizing the issue. My wife and I have lived in this home for 27 years and have loved being a part of Webster, and we've always tried to keep our property in good shape. As Danny explained, last fall, we had an unfortunate accident where our fence around our patio was destroyed, and we sought to replace it, not realizing the ordinance that was in place, and talked to our fence contractor and picked out a fence, and when applying for the permit, found out that we had these issues. And I guess from my standpoint, it does cause a hardship in that certainly I don't want to remove any of the patio, and I don't think that would be, appropriate. Secondly, I mean, it's been in its existing position and design for long before, I guess, we were here. I mean, when we bought the house, the fence and the patio were there, but we haven't really changed any of that over the years. And we were just seeking to replace the fence with, and since the whole fence was destroyed, we were going to purchase a maintenance-free, nicer, we felt like aesthetic fence that would really be an improvement. And I do understand the exception that would allow me to put back a 6-foot fence, shadow box, same material, same location and all that.
Lumber has gone up in price, correct?
Lumber has gone way up in price, 350%
Correct.
over the last year.
Excellent.
And
Well, not excellent, but yeah.
yeah, no, I understand. But so I think from the standpoint of really trying to just restore the fence that was there, the 4-foot option is really not an option either, since it really is designed to be a privacy fence for the patio. 4-foot.
So let me ask you this, would it be more expensive to replace it with lumber likely than what you're replacing it with now?
So BJ, a quick reminder, cost is not something that you can consider as the Board of Adjustment. And I apologize, Chuck, normally we would be able to pass notes if we were in person so that I could remind him to remind you. But cost is not a condition that you can consider for Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
Thank you, Mara.
So, so our request is just being able to replace the fence exactly in the same location, exactly the same height, just a different material. It's from our perspective, maintenance free, and again, very much, I think, a nicer fence than what was there or what would be there if we used the same materials and the same style. But I guess that's my opinion. But, that's really all I have. I just, again, feel like that you can see from the pictures, we're still set back off the road a good 20 or 25 feet. It's not, I understand the reasoning behind not wanting fences on a corner lot, but I just feel like this really doesn't change anything that wasn't there already before for many, many years. I don't know if it became part of your packet, but I had several neighbors that offered to submit their support, and they submitted, I think, emails to Danny along that line, that they did not have any objections and felt very good about the plans that we had for the fence. So,
Yes, those were included in our packet. Thank you.
okay, great. So no, I have nothing else to say. Hopefully I can give you back some time on your agenda, but Really, my wife and I are just asking for this variance to be able to replace that fence.
Do any of the other board members have any questions for Mr. Fitzgerald?
I just one on the shadow box fence, is the only material possible wood?
I'm not sure he'd know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
That-
I don't know. I'm asking of ignorance because I don't know.
Well, I can tell
It
you
would
what,
have to be the,
when we're looking at the fence company, there were other materials that I guess they can put in a shadow box
Yeah.
format. Yes.
And I was curious, and I recognize that's not a part of the deliberation, but I was just curious if other materials were available.
it would have to be a wood shadow box fence in order
Okay.
to qualify as a repair.
Right, well, that was, I guess, part of my question was when you're talking about repair of existing, it needs to be a wooden fence to actually fit the up. That was my point. That's what I was going for. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I ask a question of the city?
Sure.
Should there be any more testimony in favor?
Maren, did you have a question?
Yeah, not for Mr. Fitzgerald, but either for Mara or Danny.
Yeah, you can go ahead and ask it now.
Thank you. Would, if we were to grant the variance, would that allow them to put the fence anywhere, or would it limit them to, or could we limit it to be like taking up that, staying in that exact spot?
You could, I don't know if I wrote the request that specific, but you could modify it to be that specific.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other board member questions on this petition? If not, are there any members in the audience who would like to speak in favor of docket 2344? Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak in opposition to docket 2344? Thank you. Hearing none and seeing none, we'll close the public session and open for board discussion. Well, I'll start out. I think it's sort of difficult to find a exceptional topographical or other extraordinary exceptional condition other than the fact that they did pour the patio beyond the front yard. You know, I do understand these the request for the variance. You know, we just want to put it back the way it was for, you know, many years. And while I'm inclined to approve it, I'm not quite sure what the hardship is.
Well, so in looking at the exact language here, you know, you bring up a fair question because it's not reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape, or by reason of exceptional topographical conditions or other extraordinary exceptional situation. So, I mean, I guess that all still relates to, or condition or specific piece of property.
Well, if the patio was extended before they were trying to do this fence, like if that's where it was to begin with, I think that does fall into that exception.
Right. And
I tend to agree with that, particularly since this started with an accident that, you know, something with
An act of God or something.
it wasn't
Well,
them.
I don't know if it was an act of God, but
yeah.
maybe
To somebody.
maybe an act of Jack.
John
I don't know.
Barleycorn, maybe, right.
I really don't have any issue with them replacing their existing fence, which has been there for a long time. It's not objected to by anyone. It would be a hardship to remove the fence. And I wouldn't have a problem if they replaced it with a different material subject to approval by the architectural board.
I am with you.
Okay.
So-
Andrew, did you have any comments?
No, I mean, so how would we go about making an amendment to the request?
Couldn't we say a variance of 2 feet in height for the fence as as presented on the application for variance. Would that be the way to say it?
How is it worded now? I'm sorry, I don't have it directly in
It
front of me.
says 2 feet in excess of the maximum 4-foot fence in order to allowed in a front yard in order to install a 6-foot fence of 6-foot tall fence of approximately 20 linear feet located in the north front yard of the subject property. And
Yeah, so
maybe
what are we
replace
trying to
this-
limit them to? I
So,
don't
yeah,
trying
understand.
to
I mean, I
limit it
would-
to exactly where they're showing it on this
Right.
city exhibit 2 that's up on the screen.
Exact footprint of the existing fence.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what,
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine with me. You know,
All right. The chair will
say, I think
entertain a
there are- I
motion
think-
to approve docket number 2344. You want to do that, Mary?
Yes.
also
I'll
move.
motion to approve it. Yes, with the additional language of the fence staying in the existing footprint of the existing fence.
Second,
BJ as a seconder, do you concur with that wording?
yes.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Marion, would you poll the commission, please?
Debbie Stallberg,
Yes.
Randy Sprague,
Aye.
Andrew Podhast,
aye.
BJ Papillo,
Aye.
and Maren Mellum, aye.
Your application has been approved. You may see city staff during regular business hours about your next step or next step. Thank you very much. Marion, would you please read docket 2345?
Yes, this is docket number 2345, a petition submitted by James Hotop on behalf of Daniel and Cheney Hageman for an application for variance from section 58J of the city, of the zoning code of the city of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 5 feet from the required 10-foot north side yard setback in order to construct an accessory structure detached garage located 5 feet from the north side property line. Property is located at 325 South Maple Avenue within the A2 15,000 square foot residence district.
Does the city have a case?
Hang on, can I just correct that? That was section 53.058J.
Oh,
Sorry, did I misspeak?
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
it's okay. It's easy to overlook.
Yes,
you.
Madam Chairman, at this point, the city would move the introduction of evidence, what has been previously marked as exhibits 1 through 9, with some subparts that have been previously provided to the board in their packets. And in the supplement to the exhibits would present the testimony of Danny Genduza.
Danny, would you please raise your right hand? Do you hereby affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Danny Gendusa.
And you are employed by the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes,
And in what capacity are you employed?
as planner
What are your duties in that position?
to administer and execute zoning regulations.
And through your duties, are you familiar with the property at 325 South Maple Avenue?
Yes, I am.
That is within the city limits of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And that is in the A2 zoning district, is that correct?
Yes, it's in the A2 15,000 square foot residence district.
Thank you. And would you please explain for the board the applicant's request herein?
Yes, the applicant is requesting a variance of 5 feet from the required 10-foot north side yard setback in order to construct an accessory structure detached garage that would be located 5 feet from the north side property line.
And would you outline the applicable code section that is determinative right here?
So the variance is requested from specifically section 53.058 in the development standards for accessory structures in subsection J, which states that any detached accessory building with a gross floor area exceeding 672 square feet or the building height as defined in section 53.020 of the zoning code, which would exceed 12 feet, shall comply with the minimum side yard setback requirements of the district as applied to the primary structure. The applicant is seeking to construct an accessory building over 672 square feet. So the structure should comply with the A2 side yard setbacks that would apply to the main house in section 53.053C1, which states that the minimum side yard setback shall be established in the following manner. There shall be a side yard on each side of the building having a width of not less than 10 feet. So because they want to build a detached garage over 672 square feet, the garage needs to be at least 10 feet from the side property line.
And Mr. Janduza, would you describe the current and existing conditions on this property?
Sure. So shown above is the boundary and improvement survey of the subject property. The house was built in 1925. There is not currently a detached garage on the property. They have a rear parking pad accessible from the alley behind them. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, and so the variance, explain in short detail the actual variances being
Sure.
requested by this applicant.
So the applicant is seeking to build a 3-car detached garage that would be 864 square feet. Because they would like to build this large accessory structure, it would need to be at least 10 feet from the property line. If they were to construct a smaller accessory structure, it could be allowed at 5 feet from the side property line. Shown above is the applicant's proposed preliminary site plan. The box marked in green shows the available buildable area allowed by zoning that a detached accessory structure could be built. If they are wanting to do a large accessory structure, it would need to be at least 10 feet from the side property lines. Shown in red is the applicant's requested location for their 3-car detached garage. It'd be 864 square feet. They would like to put it 5 feet from the side property line. And again, here's the proposed floor plan and preliminary elevations for their garage. And that is all that I have.
Danny, maybe this is better for the applicant, but can you tell me where will people be entering? Will they come off the alley and be entering there on the
Sure.
on
So
the left?
it'll be a side entry garage. So they would
Okay.
pull in from the alley and pull in and from the side in order to access the garage. If the structure were to be 10 feet from the side property line, it would still have technically the minimum required space in order to access the garage. We require a minimum clearance of 22 feet, which would still be able to be provided with a 10-foot setback.
Okay, any other exhibits that you have to present to the board at this time? Danny, do you have any other slides to present to the board?
I do not.
Okay, at this time, Madam Chairman, we would move the introduction to evidence of the exhibits and the testimony of the city, and the city would have nothing further at this time.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Danny before we ask the applicant to join us? Okay, who's here in favor of docket 2345?
I know I saw the contractor on earlier.
Yeah, I see the contractor on, but he hasn't raised his hand, and I see the homeowner on. Okay, the homeowner, I'm going to allow the owner to talk first.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, this is Dan and Cheney Hageman. Thanks for hearing our request here.
Okay, Mr. Hageman, would you please raise your right hand?
Yep,
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, we are looking to build a garage in the backyard, something that would allow us, the current parking pad that we have back there, there was an existing garage many years ago, and it's tucked fully back into that back corner, even inside of 5 feet into that corner. But it's essentially just a surface lot, and then there's a shed back there as well that we can put our, mower and all the yard tools and all that kind of stuff in. But we do have a number of cars. We've got 2 teenage drivers. We've got five cars here. So the space that we have back there currently, we can park 3 cars in the lot, and we do not have a driveway that accesses the front yard. The property can only be entered off of that alley back there. We're on, so if we're not parking in the rear, it means we're parking out on the front of the house, which is on South Maple Avenue, which Maple is just one street off of Elm running parallel to it. Y'all probably, can kind of picture where that is. And it does see some pretty high traffic, and it's a narrow street. We do have some neighbors across the street that will occasionally park out there as well. So it's a pain to park out there from a safety standpoint of cars, coming past in front. But the other factor that we have as well is from our front door walking out to the street there's a flight of stairs, and it's all a downhill slope. Our lot is kind of a narrow, long lot. So it's kind of a trek down out to the front. So if we have neighbors, or like if our grandparents come over, or sister-in-law brings a baby over, they end up having to come and park in the back, or especially if there's snow and ice out there, it's a kind of a pain in the neck to get up into the house from parking out on the street. So that's how we've arrived at wanting to build the 3-car garage. We don't want to lose a parking spot that we've got back there. So building the 2-car garage, if we'd have to, downsize to do that, that's not kind of the objective of what we're going after here. And then we'd also be losing the shed and storage space as well. So the question about how would you enter the space there, how Danny was showing you enter in off of the alley, where my south side neighbor's garage is there. If you look where it says, frame garage, the picture we're looking at now in that top left corner there, her garage is built literally within, I think it's within a foot of our property. It's right on the property line. So, there's no 5-foot setback from her garage to our space. It's right there on the property line. So,
And that brings a concern that I would have, and I hope you can address, we're not arguing about or discussing the neighbor. It's there, and that's not before us, right?
No, not at all. My point in bringing that up is just that.
Well, hang on. So my real question is, what is this going to do to the water runoff if you've got 2 garages right next to each other?
No, I'm sorry. The existing garage that we're speaking of is not right next to mine. It's on the far side. I'm speaking to like the egress from the alley there. The picture that we're looking at on the left side there on the south edge. The garages will not be, they're in, the similar back set corners of each. So what I'm trying to essentially do is build further away from my neighbor's garage and allow for more space back there rather than being pushed 5 feet closer to her garage, where our turning radius out onto that alley back there. And the alley is, it's narrow. It's only a, 1-car width alley. There's no turnaround space back there. So the concern is having to build our garage super close to hers when we're pulling in and out. There's also a rise there, and as it is right now already with our parking pad back there, that's just, unimproved gravel, we pull out within inches of her existing frame garage. So, if we're forced to back out closer to it, I don't know if we've got like an aerial view that the Google map one maybe that shows the shape of, our drive as it comes in off of the alley there. We're right next to, that yellow line kind of obscures it there, but you can see the two cars parked parallel with the alley there. And then actually it looks like one is just kind of pulled in into the lot
Is that
there.
the 325 square that I'm looking at?
I'm sorry, we're looking at exhibit 4 is what we're looking at right now, that kind of Google Maps aerial photo.
I think so. I think. Make sure.
The 325 would be the address
Yeah. I
in the
think
middle of the
that's-
house.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yep, 324 on the south edge of us, yeah.
So 325, I'm looking at a bunch of
Oh,
pictures.
no, that's, shoot, the house between us and Russell there, that's the one I'm talking about.
Mhm.
So, and as you're looking at this aerial photo, if you look at the elevation, graph too, I'm sorry, Pat, the existing garage is at 329, right on the corner there. And as you're looking at this, you can see, from our house to the, parking pad back there, it's a very flat backyard. And then the slope is from the front yard, we've got a set of, I think there's 6 steps, and then it's just all downhill. I think the elevation changes like 20 feet from the front of the house down to the street. So that's where.
And so the runoff direction doesn't go backwards, it goes towards Maple, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And and our plan, but behind the in the 5-foot spot that we're requesting to go close. I do have letters from both of my neighbors too, stating that they are totally fine with where we'd like to put the garage too. It's a friendly relationship between the neighbors, and they submitted letters and exhibits too. So, but addressing the water runoff and being within that 5-foot variance, back to the 324 neighbor there on the north end, there is an existing, I forget how we have it titled, but there's green space back there and a water runoff spot. There's a lot of vegetation and a bed there on that north end to address the water runoff too.
Okay.
Yeah, on the 315 South Maple side, I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm
So
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your presentation.
No, well, you can tell how well rehearsed my presentation is, but so essentially what we're trying to do is we want to stick with building the 3-car garage, and in order to realistically situate it back there without being really close to the neighbor on the south side, the one at 329. That's why we're going for ample space to turn around, get in and out and back onto that alley there. So we're not kind of.
Now, do you have a letter from that particular neighbor?
I do. I have a letter from both neighbors. Yeah.
Okay.
And just from like a visual line of sight kind of thing too, if you look across the alley where the neighborhood, they have the garage right back behind us there.
Mm-hmm.
That is, it's practically right on the alley. It's right there as well. And these are old garages, they're grandfathered in. I get that. I'm not, looking at my neighbors and saying, why me? And I don't want to build 6 feet off, but just where that is visually too, if we were to build the garage, we would be in line with their garage. I'm not sure I really phrased that really well in the owner's statement of our request for the variance, but it's like, if you're on our back patio looking out where we build our garage, it would essentially obscure our view of their garage. And likewise, as they are out there on their back patio looking at their garage, it would block our view. So, from that standpoint,
A little more privacy.
yeah, just privacy and looking out your backyard, and rather than seeing, staggered garages for the next, 2 spaces, you see open space and green space in each other's backyard.
Okay.
I had one
You have
question,
a,
just if I could. No, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead,
Go ahead,
Randy.
go ahead,
No, I
Randy.
just had one quick question. So if you move it 5 more feet in, you make the 10 feet. The problem is you're sacrificing the access to the garage from the alley, as I understand it. Am I correct?
Well, what we're sacrificing, so if you're still looking at exhibit 4 here, where
Yeah.
that car's kind of just pulled in off the alley,
Yeah.
if that car were to back out, that's how you get in and out to the alley there. Okay,
So-
and then the orientation of the other cars parked on the pad there, that is the way the cars will, with the way we've got the garage set up, it will be designed to pull in parallel like that to the garage. So if you can imagine those, if you are one of the 3 cars pulled into that garage, and you're forced 5 feet closer to the property on the south side there where the neighbor's garage is situated right on the corner,
Yeah.
it's going to be a pain in the neck to back out and then pull up and safely up into the alleyway there without
Right.
clipping.
And that's what I was,
it is right.
yeah, that's what I was driving at, that it's really not a viable compromise, because if you move the building that 5 extra feet, then you really sacrifice the ability to safely back in and out of the alley and
Exactly.
move the vehicles.
And right now it's already sketchy when it's snowy and icy.
Gotcha.
I can't take my sedan up out of there onto
Gotcha.
the alley.
That's what I was driving at. It's partly the lay of the land says I really can't move it that 5 feet and still put a car in there.
Right. And I certainly get it. If we were, the other factor of this too, honestly, is we're one of the few houses in Webster. We've been in Webster since 2004. I know of like 4 alleys in all of Webster too. It's like, frankly, nobody sees anything that's back there anyway too, I know there would still be an architectural review board, and we've got a nice design for the garage, but at least as far as, that I get the sense of the code being a 5-foot setback for the purposes of, if you're on a street and you're looking across the street at your neighbor's garage, you don't want to see it, filling up, some infill housing that's taking up every last inch of the garage. But this is kind of tucked back in the middle of nowhere. Nobody else sees this garage other than the 2 people that I got letters from and the neighbor behind me, kind of thing.
Andrew, did you have a question for Mr. Hageman?
Yeah, my only question was, have you guys developed a site plan for the new driveway or, approach to the garage?
With the current setup, essentially what we're going to be doing is, retaining the existing setup there in front of we'd essentially be pouring and the foundation exactly where the old existing garage was back there, actually further out into the yard. It was closer than 5 feet to the existing spot. So, if we can build it in that back corner, we'll be able to leave a lot of, basically kind of the same setup to get in and out of the alley as is now. If it's forced further out into the kind of the middle of the yard by 5 more feet, then I think it starts, we'd have to change access out to the alley, it would be a different setup. But as it is right now, we've got the right existing, pad and layout back there the way that it's been forever. There was a garage back there years ago, and my neighbor said she was doing dishes one day, heard a big crash and looked out and it had fallen down. So we're eager to make this improvement. I think that's probably 30 years ago, but the piece of concrete's been sitting back there ever since.
Are there any more questions for Mr. Hageman or any questions for Danny before we ask for other speakers? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of docket 2345?
The contractor and architect has raised his hand.
Okay,
Good evening, everybody. My name's Jim Hotop. I work for Coach House Garages.
Mr.
And,
Hotop, could you please raise your, you need to be sworn in. Could you please raise your right hand?
I do. I am.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
I would just like to add to what Dan was saying about the character of the layout of the lot in the back of the house along the alley. There's a 2-foot swale that runs along his parking area and the alley. And the plan Dan and I talked to would be to cut that swale down a little bit and elevate the garage to make it more level with the alley, to present, give them a little more ease to get in and out of the parking structure. The other thing I was going to add was that with the reverse gable on this garage, it allows for maximum use of depth. So at 24 feet, you wouldn't think is a very deep garage, but it allows for the parking actually of 3 cars, 36 feet across, 3 cars across along with storage area. So if we tuck it in the way it's designed, it becomes an advantage to the homeowner.
So I really just have one question is, instead of this being a 3-car garage, if it were a 2-car garage, it would still be able to meet that, the code, and what would be the hardship?
Well, as it is right now, they have parking for 3 cars. If we take away that other parking area with the garage, they're going to lose that. They won't be able to park alongside the existing frame garage on the neighbor to the south there. They're going to lose that ability to do that. So it'd be basically become, they'll have 2 cars in the back and 3 cars in the front of the house. So it becomes a little bit more strategic that way. Having driven on Maple, parked in front of their house several times, it's kind of, you see a lot of traffic usage. It's almost like a bypass for Elm, especially during the day with all the contractors and whatnot running around. So.
But South Maple's a pretty wide street, last I remember.
I would beg to differ a little bit. It's fairly narrow, especially if you got cars parked on both sides. You find yourself waiting for traffic to pass, and you're ducking in and out of cars. That's my experience. I'm not saying you're wrong, but having worked all over Webster Groves with this company, I think it's a narrow street. That's my opinion.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll take any other questions anybody has.
It looked like we lost Debbie. Debbie's coming back on. And then once Debbie comes back on as the chair, it looks like the applicant, you can ask, he is raising his hand to speak again, but you have to determine whether you are going to bring him back.
I'm sorry, I had technical difficulty and lost things, so.
That's okay. So
who is it that wants?
So the contractor, the designer has finished speaking and answering questions. The homeowner has his hand raised again to come back on to speak, so I can remove one.
Yeah,
and
bring him back on, but hopefully he can make his comments brief. Mr. Hageman?
Yeah, I was just going to speak to what the hardship was of going to the 2-car garage, and it was being a family of 4 and all of us being of legal age with the cars of, having to park out front. Yeah. And safety on the street, as well as moving in and getting in and out of the house and parking out on the street. That's what we're trying to avoid, trying to get off of the street.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. That is all. Oh, and to keep the 3 cars back there to stay adequate distance away from the existing neighbor's garage. That's all.
Sure.
So I have a question for the city. Is there required setback for what their drive surface would be?
Yes.
If they paved that area back there?
So the minimum driveway depth required is 22 feet. That's a very standard depth in commercial parking lots backing out of a 90-degree parking space. They would actually have 31 feet.
Yeah.
If they were 10 feet from the property line between the garage to the south side property line. So it would be 9 feet more than what is typical in a parking lot. There would also be, an opportunity to have additional surface parking spaces on the side of the garage. If they're not enclosed, they can still have, a parking pad on the side of the garage.
Yeah. Danny, my question was more of, are they limited of how far they can extend their driveway to the south?
Oh, there's there's no minimum setback that the driveway or hardscaping has to be from a property line. So the driveway could extend to the south property line.
So they could have that full 31 feet to back out, make a right or left turn and enter the alley, and
Correct.
kind of the same way of approaching on the way in, enter the far south edge of the drive and then turn into the garage. Okay, thank you.
The driveway could also be extended further to allow additional turnaround area. The garage itself could be shifted further into the yard to provide additional clearance from the neighbor's garage.
Does anyone else have any questions for the petitioner? Are there any other parties in favor of docket number 2345 this evening? Are there any individuals opposed to docket number 2345? No. Hearing none and seeing none, the board will close the public session and move for board discussion.
I feel like this is Marin. I live on South Maple. I'm not, impacted by this decision, but I do, and I just wanted to get that on the record. I don't feel a conflict of interest. I don't know if anybody else does, but I just wanted that out there.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments on this request?
I am honestly inclined to approve it. It doesn't seem like it hurts anybody anywhere, and it does seem like it will help keep traffic off the street, which I think is probably a good thing.
I also think that they do have, this is a very long, narrow lot, and possibly you could argue that being on an alley is a hardship because there is not something that's prevalent in the city, while there are certain areas that are on alleys. And I think that this does give, I'm assuming there's no problem with the size of the garage, or that would have come before this board as well. So I think that this is a reasonable request. How do some of the other board members feel?
I would agree very much. I think it's a very reasonable request, and having done Dodge cars going to the hardware store many times, that's a tough
I would
look.
I entertain a motion to approve docket number 2345.
So moved.
Second? Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Marion, would you poll the commission?
We need to vote first.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All in favor of docket 2345, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Marion, would you please poll the commission? I'm sorry.
Debbie Sahlberg.
Aye.
BJ Papulo.
Aye.
Randy Sprague.
Aye.
Andrew Podhast.
Aye.
Aye.
You might want to abstain since you live on that street, because it's going to go through anyway. Just a thought.
Well, it's up to her. She doesn't have to abstain unless she feels there's conflict of interest.
Right. I only mentioned it because she said it.
Yeah, I wouldn't abstain.
Yeah,
Marion,
I mean, do whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
Go ahead and vote.
Either way it goes.
Could we have the city attorney go ahead and give the determination about whether she has a conflict of interest?
She does not have a legal conflict of interest.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So this docket 4345 has passed. Your next, you may see the city staff during regular business hours about your next step or options. Do people need to take a break now, or do we want to move on to the next docket?
I could take a quick break. 5 minutes.
Okay, all right.
Perfect.
5 minutes.
8:55, we'll come back. Danny, if you want to take your PowerPoint down and I'll put the other one back up.
Sure. So on
Busy night.
You didn't see that.
Oh, what a busy night.
I'm probably not gonna get a chance to eat it. Okay. Well, it's 8:55. Is everyone back? I'm not sure Maren is.
Still missing at least the other 3.
Okay.
Oh. There we go.
Keep moving my instructions.
And then Debbie, for Danny and myself, you can just remind us that we're under oath and not have to swear us in each time.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
So I think
Okay.
you have everyone at this point.
All right. Maren, would you please read docket 2346 into the record?
Yes. Docket 2346, a petition submitted by Michael Colleen on behalf of Kelsey and Henry Scott for an application for variance from section 53073 C2 of the zoning code of the city of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 1.2 feet from the required 5-foot east side yard setback in order to construct a rear addition and deck located 3.8 feet from the east side property line. Property is located at 603 Sunnyside Avenue within the A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
Thank you. Does the city have a case?
Yes, ma'am. If you please, the board, the city would move the introduction of evidence what has been marked as exhibits 1 through 9 with its subparts as previously been provided to the board in its packet, and would present the testimony of Mara Perry in furtherance of this application.
Mara, remember you are still under oath. Please go ahead.
Would you please state your name for the record, please?
Mara Perry?
And are you employed by the city of Webster Groves?
Yes, I am.
In what capacity?
Director of Planning and Development,
And your duties in that position?
to administer and execute zoning regulations.
And in conjunction with that, have you prepared an aerial slide to show the applicant's property here, and you're familiar with that application, is that correct?
Yes, I'm familiar with the property that is seen before us.
And at 603 Sunnyside Avenue, the subject of this application, is that within the city of Webster Groves?
That is correct.
And what is the zoning district within this property, please?
It is the A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
Would you please advise the board what is the applicant's request?
So the applicant's requesting a variance of 1.2 feet from the required 5-foot east side yard setback in order to construct a rear addition and deck that will be located 3.8 feet from the east side property line.
And which code sections apply to this variance application?
Code section that applies is section 53.073C2. There's a minimum side yard setback that's established with the following: residential structures that existed as of September 20th, 1956, which are closer to the side property line than 6 feet, can be enlarged provided any addition is no closer to the side property line than 10% of the lot width at the front yard setback.
Could you describe the existing conditions on this parcel of property?
Yes, so the existing conditions of the property, the house was built in 1909, prior to the zoning code. The structure was built, as you can see, quite close to the side property line. Due to the fact that this lot is 50 feet in width, it gives the exception that they can do 10% of that lot width versus the standard 6-foot side yard in the A4 zoning district. So that does reduce the setback to only 5 feet. However, the current structure is closer than that to the property line.
And would you describe for the board the actual variance that's being requested by this applicant?
Yes, so as you can see here marked in yellow, the house was built 3.8 feet from the east lot line. Additions to the structure are required to meet that 10% of the lot width, which would mean it having to be 5 feet from the side setback. You can see photos of the house that were in your packet, the existing structure, and the location of that structure on the lot. In addition, there is a proposed site plan. I'm going to get into a little more detail in regards to the proposed site plan. The buildable area is identified in a dark green line, which shows the 5-foot side yard setback on the one side where the existing structure is, a 6-foot side yard setback on the other side due to the fact that there is no structure too close. And then you can see the front, which is the existing front of the house, and then the rear yard setback and the buildable area that they have. The red is the addition that is proposed onto the structure, building off of the back of the house and then doing a deck off of the back of that proposed addition. One thing to point out, So it's identified here where it would need to be for the 5-foot rear yard setback and identified closer where the addition is. You will note, and you can see the 007 identification, which is kind of in the middle at the back of the house. That is a set of stairs that accesses the basement level of the structure. And so there is obviously some head height that needs to be met. So pushing the structure farther to meet the 5-foot rear yard setback does encroach upon some of the existing portion of the structure in terms of access to the rear of the structure. Oops, sorry. So you can see in red the requested 3.8-foot east side yard setback, in green the 5-foot required side yard setback. There is a set of proposed floor plans, which again further identify where the structure is going, as well as show the existing stairs. Proposed addition and deck, both the first floor as well as the second floor. And then this is the identification of where the required setback is in relationship to the requested setback. Elevations that you can see here, again identifying the rear of the structure and the stairs that are taken into account in regards to the existing structure.
And Mara, this addition lines up with the existing house, correct?
That is correct. It's intended to line up with the existing location of the house in relationship to the side property line.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions, any other questions for Mara?
Nothing
Who's
further
here?
on behalf of the city, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have, who's here in favor of docket number 2346?
I'm allowing the architect to be able to speak.
Yep, that's me.
Ms. Halsey, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Lee Halsey. I am the project manager at Clean Studio that has been working with the Scott family on this design. I don't want to repeat a lot of the stuff Mara said, but she did mention that the existing residence was built in 1909 before the current zoning laws were in effect. When we did the design, we actually did explore multiple options, but as the last petitioner said, that there are not many alleyways in Webster Groves, so building to the west was not feasible along with the south and the east, so we focused on the rear of the building. Maintaining that exterior stairwell is a high priority for this family, as it's really the only basement access that has the adequate space to move larger items into their area of storage. In addition, we also wanted to maintain the historic integrity of the house and not try to change a lot of the existing window openings that allow natural light on the first and second floors. So our design does take into consideration existing openings on that rear wall, and we're trying to maintain as many of them as possible that lead into this addition, which is our main priority and really the reason why we are asking for this variance, so we don't have to alter any additional exterior elements of the current residence. So I think she covered most everything. So if there's any questions, please, I'm here to answer them.
Does anyone have, so Ms. Halsey, there is another access to the basement, but it's one of those really narrow, really steep concrete stairwells inside, and this exterior is how they really move stuff in and out of the basement that's bigger than a tote bag full of stuff.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Does any other board members have any questions for the architect? Are there any other witnesses in favor of docket number 2346?
I'm going to move another over. Hold on just a second. Okay, he's available now.
Okay, I don't see a little box for him, so I don't know what his name is.
Okay, can you hear? There I am.
Mr. Kylene, would you please raise your right hand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
My name is Mike Killeen, and I am a principal at Killeen Studio Architects. Thank you for your time tonight. I just wanted to add to Lee's testimony there that our hardship, I think, would be just that the building was constructed before the rules were set, and the only place that makes sense to put this addition is where we're showing it. These folks are trying to modernize their house and add a laundry to the first floor. Right now, if you want to do the laundry, you have to go down those suicide stairs to the basement inside. And so they'd like to get their laundry back there, have a little bit more room and a bathroom so they can have guests over. The house currently only has 1.5 baths. And then upstairs, they're looking to add some office space because they both work at home. So, it's not a huge, crazy addition. It's rather modest, actually. But unfortunately, this is the only place it can go. So our hardship is the fact that just the rules changed. So thank you for considering this.
Thank you. Are there any board members have any questions for this witness? Are there any other witnesses in favor of docket number 2346?
No hands up.
Are there any parties opposed to docket number 2346?
Also no.
Seeing none and hearing none, we'll move into executive session. We'll close the public session and open for board discussion. The hardship seems to be that they built the house 100 years ago closer to the property line than we would have liked. And I think that they've attempted to work within the confines of what they have with the existing house and a reasonable addition. So I'd be inclined to approve this. Does anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, Debbie, I think I'd just add that I think also the stairwell to the basement, restricts their ability to create the living space that they're looking for by shifting that addition as well too. So they're kind of hemmed in on both sides.
Right. Good point. Anyone else? Randy?
No, I just think it's a well-considered addition.
Well, if no one has any other comments, would someone like, the chair will entertain a motion to approve docket number 2346?
I move.
I'll make a
we
motion to approve.
Please.
So we have Randy moving.
I'll
and
second that
Andrew.
motion.
Okay, or Andrew moving and Randy seconding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Maren, would you poll the board?
Randy Sprague,
Aye.
Debbie Stallberg,
Aye.
Andrew Potthast, BJ Papillo,
BJ? BJ, did you vote?
Aye.
Your application has passed. You may see city staff during business hours about your next step or options. Thank you. The next, Maren, would you please call the next docket number?
It is, oh wait, 40, are we on 2340?
2347, yeah.
Okay.
If you could give us just a moment, we're going to actually switch back again. So Danny has the PowerPoint for the next two. So hold on just a moment.
Of course.
Okay.
All right, is it working?
Well, it's sort of off center for me, but
Yeah, it's like it's too large, maybe.
yeah.
I can read it off. Well, we're gonna need to see it though, I guess.
Yeah.
Try it again.
Darn technology.
If we end up needing to, I can put mine back up. I just have to change the slides for him.
Sure, yeah. Is that any better?
Well,
No, it's still off center.
All right, we'll do it for Mara's. Mara, do you want to?
Yeah. Okay, so there we go. To read the.
Yes. You ready? Okay. Docket 2347, a petition submitted by Michael E. Blaze on behalf of Terry Fox and Anita Barnes Fox for an application for variance from section 53058N of the zoning code of the city of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 5 feet from the required 10 feet. Required 10-foot east rear yard setback in order to construct an accessory structure detached garage located 5 feet from the east rear property line. Property is located at 166 South Gore Avenue within the A2 15,000 square foot residence district.
I'll be presenting.
does the city have a case?
Yes, Madam Chairman. First, the city would move the introduction of evidence was been previously marked as exhibits 1 through 9 with its subparts. And in furtherance of the exhibits that have been introduced and accepted by the board, we would present the testimony of Danny Genduza. Would you please state your name for the record, please?
Mr. Genduza appears to have left his seat.
Sorry, it might be the staff trying to come to clean. So he's probably confirming that we're still here.
I'm here. A police officer just asked me a question. So I'm going to address this question real quick. I'll be right back.
Right, we'll wait.
Sorry about that.
So you're still under oath, and if we've previously been sworn, would you please state your name for the record, please?
Yes, I'm Danny Genduza.
Okay, and you're employed by the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes.
And in what capacity?
As planner.
What are your duties in that position?
To administer and execute zoning regulations.
I'd like to direct your attention to the docket number 2347, the property at 166 South Gore. Through your work with the city, are you familiar with this particular parcel of land?
I am.
It is within the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And what is the zoning for this parcel?
It is zoned A2, 15,000 square foot residence district.
Thank you. Would you please provide the board with information regarding the variance that's being requested under this application?
Yes. So the applicant is requesting a variance of 5 feet from the required 10-foot east rear yard setback in order to construct an accessory structure detached garage that would be located 5 feet from the east rear property line.
And what municipal code sections apply to this request?
It is section 53.058 subsection N, which states that accessory buildings may be built in a rear yard, but such accessory building shall not occupy more than 30% of the rear yard and shall not be nearer than 5 feet to any side or rear lot line, except that on reverse corner lots, the garage shall not be located closer than 10 feet to the rear property line. 166 South Gore Avenue is a reverse corner lot in which its rear property line is directly abutting its neighbor's side property line. So in this case, the proposed garage would need to be located 10 feet from the rear property line.
Okay, and maybe you have a drawing of this. Can you describe the existing conditions on this property?
Yes, so looking to the packet that was provided, there is an existing detached garage on the property. It was approved
Mara,
by,
could we have the next slide, please?
sorry for this.
Sorry, BJ locked himself out of his office and
Oh.
he now doesn't have his keys. So he's now entering in. That was what our whole issue was. So we have him in now. So hold on a second. I will move the slides. Which one are you on now?
You're on the right slide. So the house and the existing detached garage were built in 1915 before the modern zoning codes. There is an existing detached garage built in the rear, at the rear of the property. It's located only a couple of feet from the side and rear property lines. It was approved for demolition recently. The applicant is seeking to construct a new detached garage at the rear of the property.
And would you explain for the board the variance that is requested?
Yeah, so if we could go to the next slide showing the site plan. And then on the next slide, the proposed detached garage is marked in red. The applicant is also seeking to construct a addition on the rear of their home with a screened-in porch that would be located approximately 25 feet from the proposed structure as they have it shown. If it would be located 5 feet from the rear property line, if it would be required to be pushed forward 10 feet from the rear property line, it would be located 20 feet from the proposed addition that they would like to build. The code requirement requires as described, a minimum 10-foot setback. The applicant is looking to build it 5 feet from the rear property line. And I would let them make their case for a hardship. That is all that I have.
And Mr. Ginduza, are there any other exhibits that you have to provide to the board at this point?
I do not.
At this time, Madam Chairman, we move the introduction into evidence, all of the exhibits that have been testified regarding and have been included in the packet, and the city would have nothing further to present at this time.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have any questions for Mr. Ginduza before we bring the petitioner on? Who is here in favor of docket 2347?
The architect, Ben Ellerman, has raised his hand.
Mr. Ellerman, could you please raise your right hand? Do you hereby, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Well, our clients are looking to construct a new garage to replace the existing garage on their corner property. As Danny mentioned, they were both constructed in 1915, the house and the garage. Currently, behind the garage to the east, there's a 4-foot diameter tree that is basically heaving and destroying the foundation, frame walls, and slab of that garage. We've deemed that it's structurally beyond repair and would need to be replaced. So typically, if this wasn't a reverse corner lot facing the neighbors, you would be allowed to build a garage 5 foot from the rear property line. We looked at a number of different options, but we believe there are several things that are causing us a hardship. The first would be just the general location of the existing pool and pool deck and retaining walls for this property, which you can see on the current slide. It really limits the location of where you can put a garage. We explored actually having a garage with the doors facing Swan, but the difficulty with that is to enter behind the pool, we would actually need, there's a 4-foot drop in grade, so we'd need at least a 4-foot tall retaining wall right next to the neighbor's driveway. and we'd need the same variance just because there wouldn't be enough room to maneuver around the garage to get into the garage door. And then we also looked at what if we did a side entry garage and turn the garage so that the doors face north. The difficulty with that is to do that and get the required 22-foot turning radius, we'd have to dig a retaining wall all along that north property line, which would be very detrimental to the neighbor. That wall would be somewhere between 3 and 4 feet in height and would pretty much make it so they'd have to remove all the trees that you can see along this driveway property line. So we're trying to find a way to construct a new garage in a very tight corner space of this lot in a similar spot as the current garage without creating grading issues or anything detrimental to either neighbor. For the record, all adjacent neighbors and most of the neighborhood have signed letters in support, are in favor of our application. And we also feel like it's a reasonable request. Our garage is slightly larger, but not so large to trigger larger setbacks normally. And you can even notice the depth of our garage is only 20 feet to try to maximize the amount of space to actually turn in and pull into this garage. We're definitely trying to be sensitive to the other neighbors' concerns, and we welcome any questions at this time.
So Ben, this is basically a two-car garage?
Yeah, you could argue that it's maybe like a 2.5. We have a little bit of side storage, but the real reason why it's wider is we want to have a wider garage door facing that side so that when you turn and swing kind of around the screen porch, or even when you're backing out, you actually have more room to maneuver and turn around. So that's the primary driver on the width of it, but it's only 20 feet deep, which is pretty much the minimum that you can have for a single family garage for a modern vehicle.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Ben before we move on? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who is in favor of docket number 2347? You're muted, Mara. You're muted.
So Micah, you are available to speak.
Okay, Micah, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
I just want to speak in favor of this request. From a very practical standpoint, we took the time to lay this out, set up cones, and practice driving just to see what was feasible and what was not. And without this variance, it's just very difficult to swing a vehicle into that the southernmost position of the garage. And I feel like we have exhausted pretty much every design aspect has been, laid out. We kind of try to position this every which way we could.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Micah?
I just had one question. As I understand it now, by virtue of the design that you've arrived at, you really do not have to build any retaining walls, nor do you have to tear any down.
That is correct. As to my understanding, Ben can speak further to this. We did shoot some elevations. But yeah, what we were really trying to get around was not having to build a retaining wall, a large retaining wall on that north side, just because there is so much existing, very mature vegetation, as well as a fence that would be disrupted.
Right.
Well, and there's also City of Webster Groves has rules about retaining walls, especially if you're the high side. the setbacks from adjacent property. Does anyone else have any questions for Micah?
I actually have a question. It's probably more for the
For Ben?
the architect.
I can put Ben back on because he has his hand raised. So why don't I move Micah out and I'm going to put Ben back on.
Okay.
Yeah, I just to speak really quickly to Micah's point and the previous question about the retaining walls.
Yeah.
That's correct. There won't be any retaining walls. The back wall of the garage will actually be poured up. The concrete will be higher because there's about 2 foot of rise from front to back of the garage as it sits in this. So we'll be partially buried into the hill, but there won't be any actual new retaining walls built to make the garage work. So that is correct.
Yeah, good.
And we also wanted to point out that this design actually does push the garage further away from both neighbors in both directions than it is currently. So it actually is between 2 and 3 feet further away from the property line than the current garage, which is beneficial to the neighbors.
Okay. Well, Ben, that was one of my questions, because just looking at the existing versus the proposed, it did look like there was extra space there. But then I guess my other question is, really the turning space reduction and restrictions is brought on by the addition, correct?
If we didn't have the addition, we would still, in terms of maneuvering to the rear, that is true, but the side entrance would be it's hemmed in because we actually looked at options for building the addition separately, but we have to keep certain distance away from the pool as well. So what we were trying to do was actually avoid having to apply for a variance for the addition. So while we could probably redesign the garage not to be that, we had some preliminary talks with staff, and it most likely would cause the addition to change shape, and then that would probably be back to the board asking for a variance for the addition. It's really this topography and where that pool is located that's hemming us in for both. So while we wouldn't necessarily have it for the garage, we most likely would be asking for something for the house if that was the case.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Ben? If not, are there any other witnesses in favor of docket 2347? Are there any parties opposed to docket 2347? Seeing none and hearing none, we'll close the public session and open this for board discussion. Does anyone have any comments? Come on, Randy, start the discussion.
I think they've done a reasonable job here. They've moved the garage a bit further away. I think given the fact that they have a pool that is going to cause problems for them, they're adding no retaining walls, which I think is very important. I think this is a pretty good compromise, and I would be in favor of it.
I'm not sure that this is exactly right, but I think that one of the hardships to other options is the difference in grade between this and the other street, so they can't do the garage the other way.
Correct. I would agree with that very much. Yes, and I tried, and it doesn't really work.
Does anyone else have any comments? Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve docket 2347.
I would move approval of docket 2347.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Maren, would you please, excuse me?
Abstain.
Abstain. Maren, would you please poll the commission?
Randy Sprague,
Aye.
Debbie Sahlberg,
Aye.
Andrew Podhast,
Aye.
PJ Papillo. Do I need to call?
Abstain.
And Maureen Mellon, aye.
Okay, so your application has passed. You may see city staff during regular business hours about your next options. So next docket is 2348. Maren, would you please read this into the record?
Yes, docket 2348, a petition submitted by James and Jana Drew for an application for variance from section 53.053C2 of the zoning code of the city of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 4.09 feet from the required 7.2 foot south side yard setback in order to construct a rear deck located 3.11 feet from the south side property line. Property is located at 218 Parkhurst Terrace within the A2 15,000 square foot residence district.
Does the city have a case?
Chuck, you're muted.
Sorry, Madam Chairman, thank you. We would move the introduction into evidence what's been previously marked as exhibits 1 through 9. We would, and their subparts, they have previously been provided to all members of the board through the packets. We would also present the testimony of Danny Genduza, who has already been sworn in these proceedings this evening. And we would ask Mr. Genduza to please state your name.
My name is Danny Genduza.
You're employed by the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
You're employed as a planner, is that correct?
Correct.
What are your duties as a planner for the city of Webster Groves?
To administer and execute zoning regulations.
Through your work in the Webster Groves planner, are you familiar with the property at 218 Parkhurst Terrace?
Yes, I am.
That is within the city of Webster Groves, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And what zoning district is that property located?
It is in the A2 15,000 square foot residence district.
And so would you please explain for the board the request that's being made in this application?
Yes, the applicant is requesting a variance of 4.09 feet from the required 7.2 foot south side yard setback in order to construct a rear deck that would be located 3.11 feet from the south side property line.
What municipal code sections would apply to this variance?
It is directly section 53.053 in the A2 dimensional regulations defining side yard setback, which states that residential structures that were existing as of September 20th, 1956, which are closer to the side property line than 10 feet, may be enlarged provided any addition is no closer to the side property line than 12% of the lot width at the front yard setback. The existing house is located closer than 10 feet from the side property line. Therefore, the alternative setback of 12% of the lot width applies. This side yard setback also applies to any, in addition to any additions, would apply to proposed decks as well. The existing house was built in 1923. It was built 3.11 feet from the south side property line. The applicant is looking to extend the deck following the existing building line of the house.
And is there anything further you wish to describe for the board as to the existing conditions on this property?
Yes. Next slide, please. So in fall 2020, the applicant removed what was a rear pantry and an exterior staircase that's shown in the photo to the left. They removed these structures during kitchen renovations through a building permit that was approved through the city. Looking at the next slide, you can see the copy of the floor plans that were approved for building permit B718-20. On the next slide, we can see that the rear pantry and the rear staircase that had been there were approved to be demolished. The applicant at that time presented a new rear landing and exterior staircase to exit the kitchen. They were approved to reframe the rear door out of the kitchen and approved to construct their rear landing and exterior staircase that could meet the minimum required 7.2 foot setback from the south side lot line. Here, faintly, you can see the approved elevations by the city, showing the simple 3-foot landing out of the rear entry door and the straight staircase out of the home. Here's some zoomed in photos of the elevations. The applicant at that time, they removed the pantry and the staircase, and they reframed their rear doorway, but they did not construct the rear landing and staircases at that time. On the next slide, there's a screenshot of at the direction of our building commissioner. The applicant agreed to construct the new rear deck access and staircase within 12 months. They did that in October 2020. And then recently in February of 2021, the applicant submitted a new plan to construct a larger deck, different from what was previously approved. This new deck would be flush with the south side of the house. Shown very faintly, you can see the proposed elevations of the, I think it's a 12 by 14 deck that would be flush from the side of the house. On the site plan, we can see the proposed footprint of the larger, wider deck marked in red on the site plan. This deck would be requesting a minimum setback of the 3.11 feet in line with the existing house. And then going one slide ahead, it shows where the minimum required 7.2 foot side yard setback would be applied. That would fall in line about where the previous door had been located, and also in line with where their previously approved landing and deck had been approved. Another factor, the proposed deck that the applicants would want to build would be 48 inches above grade. At that height, the deck would be required to meet the setbacks of that would be required of the main house at 7.2 feet. If the applicant were to reduce the deck height to no more than 36 inches above grade, it would be allowed to extend as close as 3 feet from the south side property line. So if we were to reduce the height of the deck, they could build it in line with the house as they've expressed in their second site plan without a variance. I think looking then one more time at the site plan, just sort of in sum, there is the option to reduce the deck height to 36 inches to meet the minimum required setback, or they could build the landing and staircase that were previously approved. They could also build, just shift the deck to meet the 7.2 foot setback, allowing a larger, wider deck area if they'd like, as long as the furthest edge would be 7.2 feet from the south side property line. And that is all that I have.
Great, thank you, sir. At this time, the city would move the introduction of evidence. Everything has been testified to, identified to, and testified about. And with that being said, Madam Chairman, the city has nothing further to present.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Genduza before we bring the petitioner in?
Yeah, I have a question, but Danny, you might not be able to answer it. So that 7.2 setback, where would that fall in relation to the door opening? You know that, or is that more?
On their initial building plans, the door would be, right on the edge of the furthest outer edge of the doorway would be 7.2 feet away from the side property line. That was what was approved. I'm not certain if that's what the case is, if they built the doorway exactly as was submitted and approved in their building plans, but that's what the measurements they provided and were approved by the city.
Danny, just for clarification, when you say the doorway, do you mean the frame of the door or the door itself?
So the frame of the door is slightly further than 7.2 feet away. If you look at it very closely, the outer edge of the deck itself, the initial landing that was approved, is 7.2 feet away. So kind of cutting through the middle of the side lights along in the doorway is where that 7.2 feet distance is at.
I understand. Thank you.
Danny, it's been a while since I went through the whole packet. Is this deck an egress? I mean, will it have steps down to the ground as well?
The second, this submittal that they've provided in February did not include steps.
This is not a required egress door. They have other egresses that the building commissioner will approve.
I can't answer that with certainty. I don't know if the building commissioner provided any comments about that.
I mean, I'm assuming that most houses have to have a front and a back door, or front and a side door or something. So that was my only question.
I don't know if Mara knows.
Okay, well, I'll rest assured that they will not approve anything, that the building commissioner will not approve anything that doesn't meet code. So I won't worry about that right now.
Sure.
Anyone else
I
have any
thought I saw
questions?
a doorway to the bottom on the other side of the house. Maybe I was confused.
Okay, you're probably right. You're probably right, BJ. I just missed that.
Don't know. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah, I
there's
see it.
another
Okay.
egress,
Okay.
egress from
All right.
the bottom side.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Jandusa? If not, who is in favor of docket number 2348?
I don't have any. Oh, there we go. Hold on a second.
Is this Mrs. Drew?
Yes, it is.
Would you please raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
So I'm glad you found the other back door there. We do have another way into the back of the house or out of the back of the house. To clarify too about where the 7.2 foot difference lies, it unfortunately hits right in the middle of the side light. And so that is part of the concern in terms of not being able to stretch the deck over that far in terms of where it lines up against the back of the house.
So just to make sure I'm understanding right, sorry to interrupt, but
sure.
So the deck will be basically flush with the house, correct?
That is what we're proposing, yes.
Okay.
So obviously some of the concern is, or a big part of the concern is the required 7.2 foot side yard. But I guess I was thinking about this sort of in a flipped way, which is my concern from where I'm standing is this idea of how we get out of the back door and onto this deck, and that if it's a certain height, then it doesn't have to be quite so far away from the property line. So I guess the way I was thinking of it was more, can we please build this deck level with the back door rather than having to have steps down onto a deck? Because I think right now we don't really see a way to build it farther over between the other back door and where the placement of the new back door is. We kind of have a limited spot to put this.
Just out of curiosity, is there any reason you didn't do steps again?
Honestly, to be really honest, it was about $7,000 more. And
That's
Perfectly.
good answer.
I'm just gonna
That's
make the
all I had.
reminder.
If you have anything else, please.
Can I just make the reminder again that cost can't be a factor in your determination for your Board of Adjustment variance?
Absolutely.
I did want to make the case that our primary concern in terms of that step down, which was the proposed solution, was you could have 2 steps down onto this deck that would be 36 inches off the ground, which would be, my understanding is that would be consistent with code. My concern is that that's right off the kitchen, and certainly we're planning to have meals out there, and I think it's a safety hazard to come down onto steps. We don't have a railing there. I don't know exactly how we would, I mean, I'm sure there's a way, but adding a railing somehow in there with the back door seems difficult and dangerous to have to navigate a couple of steps down. We're planning on aging in this house, and we have older relatives as well, and people who are visiting. My concern is really that somebody's going to fall down those 2 back steps onto the deck.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mrs. Drew? Seeing none, are there any other witnesses in favor of docket number 2348? Are there any parties opposed to docket number 2348? Hearing none and seeing none, I would close the public session and open for board discussion.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. I think this sounds reasonable. I think she's right about the steps down. And as far as it hitting in the middle, I see hardship on both sides of it, and I think we approve it.
I tend to agree with you, and this is very similar to at least one other request we had this evening, because they are lining up with the existing house. So I think part of the hardship is the placement of the existing house in relationship to the side yard line.
And I think partly it's driven by where the placement of where the door is in the house. That's where it is in the structure.
True.
Well, and I will also say it seems odd to me that we have to go down, but then can meet I'm not sure quite what that regulation is. But if you go down to 36 inches, you can do it the same way you're going to do it if you keep it flush. I mean, it just seems much more reasonable to stay flush with the door coming out, if that makes sense.
Does to me.
Anyone else have any other comments? The chair would entertain a motion to approve docket number 2348.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, nay. Marion, would you poll the commission?
Randy Sprague,
Aye.
TJ Papillo,
Aye.
Andrew Podhast,
Aye.
Debbie Sahlberg,
Aye.
and Maren Millen votes aye.
Your application has been approved. You may see city staff during regular business hours about your next step or options. And with that, we move to the last docket, 2349. Would you please read this into the record, Marion?
Yes, docket 2349, a petition submitted by Sean Finley on behalf of Timothy and Andrea Sampson for an application for variance from section 53078N, the zoning code of the city of Webster Groves. The applicant is requesting a variance of 2.18 feet from the required 5-foot north side yard setback in order to structurally alter an existing non-conforming accessory structure located 2.82 feet from the north side property line. This property is located at 50 North Bompard Avenue in the A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
Thank you. Does the city have a case?
Yes, Madam Chairman. First of all, the city would move the introduction of evidence, exhibits 1 through 9, with the subparts that has previously been provided to the commission, and would offer the testimony from city staff, but I don't know which one's doing this. Who's doing it? Danny, you doing this one?
Nope, I am.
Laura's doing it.
Mara's doing this one. Okay. Anyway, with that being said, we will present the testimony of Mara Perry. Would you please state your name for the record, please?
Yes, Mara Perry.
And are you employed by the city of Webster Groves?
Yes, I am.
And you are the Director of Planning and Development. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What are your duties with the city of Webster Groves?
To administer and execute zoning regulations.
And in that capacity, are you familiar with the property at 50 North Bompart?
Yes, I am.
And that is shown on Exhibit 4. That is within the city of Webster Groves. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what is the zoning for that property, please?
It's the A4 7,500 square foot residence district.
Would you please outline for the board the applicant's request?
So the applicant's requesting a variance of 2.18 feet from the required 5-foot north side yard setback in order to structurally alter an existing non-conforming structure that is located 2.82 feet from the north side property line.
And what are the municipal code sections that apply to this request?
This request is under 53.078N, and it's mainly the first part of that particular code section. Accessory buildings may be built in a rear yard, but such accessory buildings shall not occupy more than 30% of the rear yard and shall not be nearer than 5 feet to any side or rear lot line. So in this case, the side lot line.
And would you describe for the commission at this point, the existing conditions on this property?
Yes, this property has a house that was built in 1901 and the existing detached garage was built in 1950. The existing detached garage is a legal non-conforming structure. It was built at 2.82 feet from the north side lot line. You can see it outlined in yellow. These are photographs of both the existing house and the existing garage that's in the rear. What the applicant is intending to do is to take the existing garage structure and wants to alter it, however, not move it any closer to the side property line than it already is in terms of where it's located. They are adding a new gable roof. That new gable roof will change and structurally alter the roof structure, which requires it to come and to meet the current codes. There's also some new pedestrian door framing that's being added to the structure. Again, structurally alters one of the walls of the existing structure. Both of those require them to come before you to get a variance for the rest of the garage space to remain in the exact location as it's currently located. You can see here, there's the green line with the required 5-foot side yard setback. The red line is the requested 2.82 foot side yard setback to alter that legal non-conforming garage.
Okay, do you have any other exhibits in the packet, in the city packet for the board to consider?
No other exhibits at this time.
Okay. You have explained the request here and you have explained the applicable portions. At that point, Madam Chairman, the city would move the introduction of the exhibits and the testimony would have nothing further.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mara before we ask the petitioner to speak?
No.
Mara, I have one question real quick. I understand completely that this is not what we're addressing here, but they are building a new covered patio and that appears to be within the correct spacing away from the side. So
that is
that part of it is in compliance. We're strictly talking about the garage that was not in compliance and will not continue to be in compliance.
You are correct.
Okay.
So they have two different projects going on, one that is completely within compliance and another one that they're trying to structurally alter.
I understand. Thank you.
Who is here in favor of docket 2349?
Contractors here.
I do appreciate your patience, Mr. Finley. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to turn my camera on, but I'm not sure I have it right. Anyways, we've got a dilapidated garage on the property that was there when my clients purchased this property, and is unusable, is kind of a liability. It's the roof is falling in. The slab has failed and heaved and whatnot, and we just want to replace the roof on it and get it up to something that they can actually park their vehicles in as it was intended.
Will it be big enough for 2 cars?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Finley?
Nope.
Are there any other witnesses in favor of docket 2349?
No hands up at this time.
Are there any parties in opposition to docket 2349?
Also no hands.
Okay, hearing none and seeing none, we'll close the public session and open this for board discussion. Does anyone have any initial thoughts?
My initial thought is this house is old and it sounds like it is being run down just out of age, not out of ill keep or anything. And it sounds like an undue hardship to me.
I'd also point out that we have the situation where the garage was built at this location, and they're attempting to reuse part of it, and so it would seem to me that there is that's the hardship, is the location of the existing garage. They didn't go into anything about if they'd remove this garage and, the new concrete patio and steps and how this would modify, how this would have to be modified. But I think that this is a reasonable request as well. Does anyone else have any comments? Hearing none and seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion to approve docket 2349.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve docket 2349. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Marion, would you poll the commission?
Randy Sprague,
Aye.
Debbie Sahlberg,
Aye.
Andrew Podest,
Aye.
BJ Papillo, Maren Mellum, aye.
Your application has passed. You may see city staff during regular business hours about your next step or options. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Do we have any other business tonight?
Okay.
No, it's good to see some new faces.
Well, I would like to thank everyone for being here tonight. And, I think 3 hours for seven petitions is not bad. We should be,
Yeah, sorry for my absence. I apologize about that.
Oh, it sounds like you've had a night, Vijay. You locked yourself out of your office?
Yeah. And my car, my keys and my phone are in there. Oh, no.
Are you going to be able to go home, or are you going to have to take one of these police
I
officers?
might just sleep in City Hall. We'll see.
Actually, I'd like to thank Danny and Mara, because I think you guys did a great job of pulling this all together. It's a lot of data, a lot of information, and it was all there. Thank you.
I want to say how much I appreciate the PowerPoints, because you guys do a really good job. I especially appreciate the red line and the green line.
Yeah.
Yep.
It helps me visualize stuff.
Danny
So does
put
my
together,
ex-wife.
Danny put together the PowerPoint for all 7 projects.
Well done.
Took 2 days.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the packet, because I was gosh, if I got to print all this stuff out.
Yeah, thank you for dropping them off too. That was
Yes, we do. Some of you are really young, but some of us are old, and we really like paper.
I told Danny I would print them myself, but he kindly delivered them anyway. So thank you.
Just
Well, I'd have to
recycle
have another
everything.
computer so that I could look at it because I'm not going to print it all out. But everyone have a lovely evening, and hopefully our next meeting will not be quite so long. It was nice to see Andrew and Maren, and I hope you guys have a great next month, and maybe we'll use you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Good idea.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Goodbye.
Stay well. See y'all.
Take care.
Uh,